I don't understand. I am a servant of the spirit tortoise. My very purpose is to steal the souls of the living. It doesn't make sense. Why would that soldier treat me so kindly knowing that?
Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News Anime Night, where we take a particular season of anime and we analyze it episode by episode and give you guys our thoughts on it. I'm your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody's having an awesome day or night when you're listening to this. And obviously joining me is my lovely wife, Andrea, my Raftalia to my Naofumi. Andrea, it's officially July, which means now we're in 90-degree weather. Is it hot enough for you?
Yep, it is.
Will you ever let it be below 90 ever again?
No.
Are you the spirit tortoise where you will just kill all the souls of everybody if they turn the thermostat down?
I'm sure I would.
Well, today we're here to talk about episode 4 of Rising the Shield Hero Season 2, which is Ruins in the Fog. And I'm just going to go ahead and be honest with people. We had to watch this again because there's actually been quite a bit of time that's passed since we watched it, and I'm glad we did because a lot of stuff kind of happens in this, or at least a lot of stuff gets alluded to or told about in this episode as opposed to the last two, which was basically, one was a giant council meeting for the most part, and then the next one was basically a fight scene, roughly, because it was them taking down the spirit tortoise. But to bring people up to speed, they have decapitated the spirit tortoise, and strangely enough, Ostorai, the familiar of the spirit tortoise, is still alive. So we're not sure why. But we actually kind of start going into the explanation of that in this episode. But first things first that we have to do is we finally get some backstory on Rishia. So, this is actually one of the things I'd forgotten about, and I'm kind of glad I went back and watched this episode. So, Rishia was the son of, wow, did I just say son?
Issue.
I misgendered her. I should be banned from Twitter. Rishia is the daughter of a noble family who I guess had incurred a lot of debts and pissed off a lot of the fellow noblemen. I don't care. I was about to say noblemen, noble women. I don't care. And because of all the people that they had pissed off, they had incurred a bunch of, according to Rishia, because all of this is told in Rishia's in Rishia's memory.
Point of view, or
from her point of view, is they had incurred a lot of illegal debt, and in order to pay off said illegal debt, they had the noblemen basically took Rishia and sold her into slavery. And so the thing that's interesting is it looks like the same nobleman that was also holding all of the children in Sayet that Raftalia knew was the same nobleman that also took Rishia. And after he was overthrown, Itsuki's party came in, I guess, and Rishia was under the impression, because it was Itsuki that opened the door that she was to the prison she was in, that he was the one that saved her. But if that's the same nobleman, then I strongly suspect Itsuki lied about who actually saved her.
Mm.
Am I wrong about that? Because that's the same nobleman that Raftalia took out.
That's true.
So at that point, Itsuki's a little douchebag. He took credit for something that wasn't him. So with that being said, this is why Rishia loves Itsuki so much, is because according to her point of view, Itsuki was the one that got her out of that horrible situation and then later dropped her like trash. And so at that point, I have been questioned, or I have been called out on this, but I'm still sticking to my guns. It wasn't that she loves Itsuki, she wants to pay him back. Same diff in anime. Because if it is a female character and they want to pay back that debt, perfect example, Raftalia. Raftalia was in a similar situation, and in turn, she gained affection for Naofumi because Naofumi took her out of that situation. Am I wrong?
No.
A lot of people can make the argument that what happened with Rishia and Itsuki is what happened with Raftalia and Naofumi. So at that point, we now know that backstory. Andrea, how do you feel about Rishia now that you know said backstory?
Well, at least it makes sense.
Are you with me on this where it looks like Itsuki might be taking credit where he didn't earn the credit?
Most likely.
Because I think that was the same freaking if people want to point out to me it's somebody else or like an evil twin or an even more evil twin brother, fine. But I think that's the same asshole that Raftalia took out. So at that point, feel free to chime in on that one. But we then, after going through the backstory, we start having a bit of a relationship, not a relationship, but like some kind of a friendship budding between Ost and Rishia, in the fact that, in my opinion, throughout most of this episode, Ost is buttering up Rishia and buttering her up hard. Basically just doing everything she possibly can to get on Rishia's good side. And that's the only way I know how to explain it, because once again, as we pointed out in the last 2 episodes, we don't trust Ost at all. And again, this is just another thing to kind of think, okay, she is working things for her own agenda, and I have a feeling she's buttering up Rishia to turn on Naofumi should the need arise, kind of thing. And that's kind of the way it goes. But then we kind of get the plan. They have another meeting, and they basically decide they need to go and do some reconnaissance on the spirit tortoise by climbing onto its back. And so Naofumi's party is immediately elected for this, and they take who is all of them? Naofumi, Raftalia, Philo, Rishia, Ost, Kung Fu Grandma, and Claire. I think those are all of them, right?
Yeah.
So they start scaling the mountains that are on the spirit tortoise's back, but unfortunately, Ost was sent because she is a familiar, so she should be able to guide them, right? Well, apparently there's a fog around the mountains, and apparently this fog is magical because it is also affecting Ost, and she is not remembering where to go. So in order to not exhaust themselves, Naofumi, through Philo, because Philo's complaining, suggests that they set up camp and wait until maybe the fog clears. To which we get even more buttering up of Ost and Rishia. Again, I do not trust Ost in the slightest with all of this stuff. I mean, some people are going to be like, well, she's just being typical woman. No, she really isn't. Because if you remember in previous episodes, she's openly admitted that she has done very femme fatale things like seduction and stuff like that to be able to get what the spirit tortoise wants. So at that point, there's no saying that this is what she's doing anyway, because she's already admitted she will do these tactics, or she's done these tactics before. So no, I don't trust her. And from what I can tell, Andrea, you don't either.
Yeah, if she openly admitted that kind of stuff, you wonder.
Yeah, no, it makes you question her actions, and justly so. In the middle of this, we also even get some cute conversation about Raftalia and Philo because they're asleep, and it's like, and we get this a lot in these series. Oh, they're just like sisters. Mm-hmm. They kind of are. Ultimately, they do fight quite a bit. The only problem is that they fight for Naofumi's affection, and it just gets creepy. But after a while, the fog clears, which does affect Ost. And Ost now remembers where to go. And so they immediately, in the middle of the night, start going to the village. They find a wrecked mountain village that we're guessing was wrecked by Spirit Tortoise familiars. It's not clear on it. This is the thing that actually kind of bugs me. If this village was on the Spirit Tortoise's back, I get if he was dormant and he woke up and, the earthquake caused a lot of that damage. But then you also occasionally see what looks like claw marks in the buildings, and I don't know if I buy that the Spirit Tortoise would have attacked or sent his familiars to attack a village worshipping him.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that, honestly, is we find out there's a temple in this village to the spirit tortoise, so we can assume that this is a village that worships the spirit tortoise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing I can think of that would make those claw marks would be the familiars, the yetis, the bats, but why would he do that to a village that was worshiping him? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, but we also get to have a couple of moments where Raftalia is kind of dealing with having to see all this carnage, and it looks very similar to when she went to go help her friends in the dungeon, and we get even more Ost Rishia stuff where Ost is going to pray to all the corpses, and Rishia goes to join her. Also, by the way, the queen is here, along with, and I'm going to officially call her Miss I Dare Say. She is the shadow that works for Melty in particular, but she also works for the queen. And the only reason I'm calling her that is because most of her sentences end with I dare say. So she is now in agreement, Andrea. She is Miss I Dare Say.
Mm-hmm. I dare say.
I dare say, yes. We're now joining in that. But they cut from the cleanup to a temple dedicated to the spirit tortoise. And we actually learn one of Rishia's strengths. Let's call it a strength here. Is, combat's not necessarily her strength, but she is a bit of a scholar. And by that I mean she's well educated. Reading through like a basic spell book is not a hard thing for her. She is able to read a lot of the arcane languages, and Naofumi actually is pissed at this because it takes all of his effort to be able to read a spell book, and it looks like it's nothing to her. So that looks like one of Rishia's strengths, is like combat isn't really that, but correct me if I'm wrong, she might be a good magic practitioner, or maybe even a good scholar or tactician at the back line kind of thing. So they are. I like the fact that they're giving her a strength that makes sense, because like combat's just not her thing, but now she could actually be a good research assistant. She could be a good tactician if she wanted to. So it's not like she's completely and utterly useless. And coupled on top of this, we also get Kung Fu Grandma basically saying that apparently she's just this... She's a Japanese anime prodigy when it comes to key manipulation. I don't know if I buy this just because... the only person that's seeing it is Kung Fu Grandma, and even Rishia doesn't even know what she's talking about. So, I mean, it would be cool if she became, like, Kung Fu Grandma 3.0, and just, like, kicked everybody's ass by looking at them, but I don't know, Andrew. What do you think about that? Because the Kung Fu Grandma keeps on inferring that, like, she's this super-duper prodigy when it comes to key manipulation, but we have no evidence of that.
Hmm. Well, I guess we'll soon find out if she's she's...
But what about the other talents of Rishia? Do you like the fact that now she actually has something she's good at?
Well, at least it's something.
Yeah, exactly. So she can read these spell books, and she can properly read a lot of the arcane languages in Melremark, which that's a help right there, because as Naofumi pointed out, like it took a lot of effort for him to read a spell book, which means it probably took Raftalia as much effort. Because he had to teach her how to read, I think. Or at least fill in the gaps, because she was, like, that age. So, at that point, she is a valuable asset here. However, when we go a little deeper into the shrine, we find a mysterious message that, according to Rishia, is written in the hero's language. And so that immediately piques Naofumi's interest, and he looks down, and it is a message in Japanese.
So, did the queen go on the party too?
The queen was there at the village. I'm glad you pointed this out. She kind of popped in the village, and that was all. She did not go on the back with them. So she got brought in for the rescue effort for the village. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, it's interesting that all of them call it the hero's language, or what was it? The hero's alphabet, I think is what they called it.
I thought it was the...
Okay, sorry. We had to take a quick break and take care of some stuff. But, so the queen mentions that this message in the shrine is the hero's alphabet, and when that piques Naofumi's curiosity, it is in Japanese. And he even says that's the language of my country, which in turn kind of infers that he is not the only hero that has come from Japan. And at least one other person named Keiichi, who wrote this message, was also a vassal hero and was able and had some contact with the spirit tortoise. I can't remember the details of what it exactly says, but it looks like it deals with a seal and shattering it for the spirit tortoise. And around the time that they're trying to figure it out, unfortunately, they have another tremor, and the temple kind of collapses around the message. So they weren't really able to figure out what it ultimately meant, but it is an interesting tease, because it basically says, like, to whomever, it was something along the lines of, to whoever reads this, the spirit tortoise can only be defeated when the seventh blank is shattered, and it basically is inferring to, like, how to beat the spirit tortoise, which, again, after the cave-in, almost magically remembers once again. There's a reason we don't trust this woman. Holy shit. She just conveniently remembers everything. And so she remembers that the only way to truly defeat the spirit tortoise is to go inside of it via a cave in that shrine. And that cave will take you directly to its heart, and you have to destroy the heart. How many people didn't think they'd have to go inside the spirit tortoise to kill it? I love the look that Andrea is giving me. She's just like, oh, of course. It's like it's God of War all over again.
Or Gears of War.
Or Gears of War.
Or something.
so many games we played recently where we have to go inside of something.
It takes you back in the day. And
back in the day, what?
Takes you back in the day when I'm going through that and seeing all the wonderful things on the inside.
Yeah, stuff like that. Or like how every cartoon had to have like that go inside the human body-esque episode. Like somebody was super sick, and so they had to shrink themselves down to go take care of it. Like every series did this. Every series. And all of them were kooky. But yeah, so they start to go down this passage, and they come across 3 other adventurers who apparently were sent by the queen, except we don't remember her saying that. And in turn, now originally when you see them, because of the camera angles, it looks like, they're just regular adventurers. But then it's a very clear giveaway by about camera cut 3, because one of them has a very familiar scythe. And so at that point, immediately, Naofumi tells Raftalia to use a revealing spell. And this is kind of how the episode ends, where we find out this other group of adventurers is Lark, Therese, and Glass. Except Glass is not in her typical kimono. So that's basically where things end. How did you feel about that reveal, that these 3 were here, there isn't a wave going on, and apparently they have some kind of interest in the spirit tortoise? Otherwise, why would they be there?
Funny that they're there to begin with.
Any guesses as to why they're there?
Maybe they just figured that the Cardinal Heroes would be involved with it.
Yeah, but I mean, my first question is, how are they there? There's not a wave active. And the only way that we know that it's not the only way, because Lark was there before the wave. So at that point, obviously they have some way of getting to Melremark that we don't know about. And apparently they can travel freely between these worlds. So that's kind of question 1 answered, although we don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And the spirit tortoise is looking to destroy Melremark. Why? Like, are they? Do you think they're there to help it? Because it looked like maybe they weren't.
It's hard to say until we see the next episode.
Yep. And then what did you think of Glass being there and trying to hide the fact that she was there? I mean, they were all hiding, but even after the reveal spell, like, Glass was making sure that nobody could see her face.
Well, typical her.
She's still drunk. Is that why?
No.
That's how potent that alcohol is. It lasts for months.
I think she still just wants to get back at Naofumi.
We don't think she has a crush on Naofumi now? I mean, Naofumi beat her. That is anime justification for now having a crush on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
That is, like, I've seen that way too many times. So, I mean, could that be why? I hope not. There's already too much, pardon my French, Andrea, but there's already too much of an estrogen caravan that is going with Naofumi right now, alright? He's got, okay, so we got Naofumi, we got Rattalia, we got Rishia, all three of which have slave, actually, Philo does not have this slave pact, but she has a similar pact. All of which have slave pacts, and then we have Kung Fu Grandma, then we have Ost, then we have Eclair. There's one I'm missing in there. All the girls from Sayet Village that now love Naofumi. There's too many girls. There's too many. There's a reason I'm giving crap to Naofumi about Phoenix Wright syndrome, man. Everybody around him is a girl.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can go ahead and smack me right now, Andrea, but I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
There's a lot of feminine support here. There is a caravan of estrogen here. So part of me is just like, no, I don't want another character that has a crush on Naofumi, especially when we've already established that this character in particular is supposed to be adversarial to Naofumi. No. So, yeah, that's basically how this episode wraps up. So, what did this episode do right, Andrea? It was fucking engaging.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the last two episodes have been, like I said, one giant war council and one giant fight scene. This actually had stuff that we cared about. It gave us backstory to Rishia. It gave us some backstory towards the spirit tortoise. It gave us some intrigue with the mysterious Japanese message. And then we got the final reveal of Lark's crew being there. It did a lot more to engage. What did it do right in your eyes, Andrea?
About the same, just kind of filling in.
Is there anything in there I left out?
No, for the most part, just,
You have a
it
secret
was...
crush on Miss I Dare Say, don't you?
it just kind of gives us a little bit of story.
Oh, damn,
to
I
go.
should have done this. You have a crush on Miss I Dare Say. I dare say. Yeah, no, this episode is... Because I don't want to say you were horribly bored in the previous two episodes, but you were kind of there, right? So at that point, at least this did something to try and intrigue us. At least it did something to try and get us invested. So I'll give it that credit, but that's about as far as I'll go. What did this episode do wrong? Austin Rishia. It's getting really creepy.
That was just kind of awkward and weird.
I think about it, I get a sour taste in my mouth. I don't like it.
And it's just funny that she...
And if anything, it makes me not... I know that this has been a broken record for the last couple of episodes. I don't trust Ost. At all. And this is yet another indicator that I don't have a reason to trust her. Especially since Rishia has to be, 14, maybe? While Ost is... Well, her form is, in her 20s. But if she's a familiar of the spirit tortoise, she's obviously millennia old. Ew! Sorry, I just gave myself a bad image. Yeah, I don't like the Ost Rishia stuff. I know it's going to backfire at some point, and it's going to be horrible.
It's just funny when she's supposed to be the familiar, but yeah, it's there's all these things that keep her from being, remembering. It's oh, come on.
Mm-hmm. I'm willing to give the fog at least a little bit of credit there, because it could have been magically created.
True.
But the rest... Yeah, I'm not... I'm still hung up on the fact she didn't know about that spike attack. She didn't know about that. There was no fog around at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and I actually do know that somebody had made the observation that maybe she was being the way she was because she still wanted Naofumi to kill her. Maybe, but Naofumi's not going to do it because he sees the potential resource that she is. So he's not going to do that, so I don't know if I buy it. And I'd like to think she's smarter than she lets on. But then again, this was also the same person that told Rishia at episode 2, like, all you have to do to get Naofumi's trust is to sleep with him. Right in front of Raftalia. That was a great idea, Ost. So, yeah, that's one thing I think did wrong. The other thing, too, I just don't see why Lark had to be disguised unless they just were thoroughly convinced Naofumi was going to be there.
Yeah, it's really funny that they're like wondering why there be adventurers down there, and yet one of them was, wasn't it Ost the one? She's like, well, why would the queen trust anyone who she?
Yeah, like even Ost is questioning it. So at that point, she's like, the queen has always been upfront about what she's gonna do and what she's not gonna do. Pretty sure that if she was gonna send a band of adventurers, you wouldn't find them in the cave. They would have come in with you. So, yeah. So, any other negatives that I'm pointing out? I do not like the buttering up that's happening with Ost and Rishia. I'm not gonna say necessarily that Rishia's backstory is a bad thing, because I actually do think it's a very indicative thing of the world that we're living in. And I want to know if Itsuki just took credit. Because if he did, then as far as I'm concerned, like, Ren's the only one that's trustworthy. Because Motoyasu is cucked to the nth degree, and Itsuki is just subtle manipulator. If that's the case. So at that point, positives, negatives, what would we give this episode?
I'd probably give it a 3 still.
I'd be like a 3.5. I think this is a big step in the right direction. So here's hoping that they continue this pace. But that's going to go ahead and do it for us for episode 4. When we come back, episode 5, we will take on episode 5 of Rising the Shield Hero Season 2. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. We really do appreciate it. If you are brand spanking new and want to be able to support us, first of all, consider liking and subscribing on YouTube, where you're probably listening to this, because a lot of you guys are on YouTube. Or you can go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, and Player.fm and like and subscribe there. Leave a comment and a review. That helps us out on those platforms. Or you can also let us know what you thought of episode 4 in the comments below. We would love to have that discussion. And when we come back, it'll be episode 5. So we will see you guys then. Until then, don't trust Toast.